completely informed of everything that's been going on behind the scenes with Hasan, Denims, Idubbbz, Ethan, all of them. I've seen all of this shit before, and I've watched all the videos. I watched the entire content cop off stream. I watched Ethan's response video off stream. And yeah, for you guys who actually know what's going on with all this shit, I think you'll find that it's fucking ridiculous. I have a lot of things that I want to say, but I never really had the opportunity to address it on stream. So I kind of want to do that right now and kind of just give you guys my thoughts for anybody who actually cares about how I feel about all this shit and just kind of weigh in. And I'm sure Rev did a pretty good job of summarizing everything here real quick. It's so dumb. Oh, I absolutely agree. And that's why it's great.
Today we're going to be revisiting the content cop that keeps on giving, well, content. So a few days ago...
Once again, I want to say, I've been a big fan of Idubbbz and H3 at some point in my life. I loved all the content cops. I loved the fucking Vape Nation. I loved all of this. So I'm not really biased towards either side. I'm just kind of more inclined to believe the people who are telling the truth versus people who have just kind of had their minds poisoned by people with negative biases and a certain agenda to fulfill and attempt to character assassinate anybody they possibly can because they know that someone was coming at them with munition that was more than just imaginary.
Idubbbz released his content cop on H3, aka Ethan Klein, and as the dust has settled, we've gotten a lot of additional context that has made this situation even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now we have Ethan Klein coming out and making his official response to this content cop, providing additional context, as well as some very disturbing details about the surrounding circumstances. Now, you can see right now the dislikes continue to climb, over 447,000 dislikes versus...
Yeah, I'm gonna be real, bro. Once you go past 50% dislikes, I think you should just admit that you fucked up.
348,000 likes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people will say, oh, it's brigaded, it's brigaded, it's brigaded, bro. There's no way anybody has the ability to brigade 500,000 clicks.
This has been dislike bombed pretty hard and for good reason. Who thought this would have been a good idea? Where Idubbbz revitalizes his content cop series that he said was too mean-spirited to ever open up again. He uses that to backstab his former friend while employing the help of all of his greatest haters to paint Ethan Klein as some unhinged lunatic who's crashing out over absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of irresponsible because the problem with content, or the great thing about content kept back in the day, was that Idubbbz would always go towards everything with a neutral perspective and do all of the research by himself. Going to Ethan's greatest schizos to find ammunition on how to destroy his life and take their incredibly negative biased words as the truth is just a very low IQ, very stupid fucking move to make. It makes no sense, and it kind of destroyed all credibility of any legs that this video had to stand on.
While ignoring important context like the harassment he's faced, the fake CPS calls that the related communities have encouraged against his family that actually...
Yeah, in case you guys don't know, Ethan's been underneath a lot of harassment. Hasan and Ethan have had a lot of back and forth drama where Ethan's going at Hasan, essentially saying, hey man, I don't like how you did this. This comment was kind of weird. Why are you using this item in your photos? And then Denims and Hasan are going at Ethan saying shit like, we're not going to engage. We're above this. You're pathetic. You're doing this for views. Having no sympathy, Denims incited her chat calling Child Protective Services on Ethan Klein, insinuating that he had an unsafe home environment for his kids, and he received a lot of very real harassment in real life, as well as one of his schizos sending him 2 real human skulls to his house, obviously insinuating that they were going to kill him and his wife. And it's a very uncomfortable situation. And I think the lack of sympathy, the lack of empathy in this, and the whole I must be right at any cost thing is just getting out of fucking control. And I really cannot believe that it's still going to this point.
Actually ended up with a call being made, and also the human skulls being sent in the mail to his family. Yes, human skulls sent in the mail. That is the latest detail we just found out from Ethan Klein on this situation, as you can see. But of course, trying to paint him as the villain has backfired because, well, he's the one who's been reacting to a torrent of harassment and deranged behavior for quite some time now. And when you think about this, they really try to frame this content cop, especially at the end, as something that's supposed to be empathetic. Like, they're trying to help out Ethan Klein because he's going through a tough time. He's lost his mind. He's crashing out. Well, of course...
Nah, it ain't really like that at all. This shit is, like, actually so cringe.
Doing nothing but mocking him, harassing him, and trying to further more of the bad stuff that is happening to him. And now we have the
You have to understand, Hasan has a history of attempting to character assassinate anybody who approaches him with valid criticism. And he won't engage with any of the videos that Ethan's made on him because he knows there's a lot of truth to it. And there's a lot of fear in his heart to interact with that because he's done a very good job of any piece that goes against him whatsoever, he will never address or talk about at all and just say, yeah, well, this guy's a pedophile. Well, yeah, this guy's a rapist. Well, yeah, this guy's an abuser. Well, yeah, this guy's a fucking Nazi. Yeah, this guy's a transphobe. This guy's a homophobe. We're really going to listen to this fucking guy? And it's just kind of a disgusting thing to say. And, you know, kind of his whole posse does that. Now, Frogan to a lesser degree. Frogan's just retarded and fat, and that's why I make fun of her all the time. But Denims is another very horrific person who will go in on any false allegation towards anybody she doesn't like and then defend any false allegation towards a person that she does like. She's very unfair. She's overly biased. She's incredibly stupid. And I think when Hasan surrounds himself with people who are truly that dumb and fulfills him with this sense of holier than thou, that he is everything that he thinks he is. And I think it's just another case of a massive ego explosion that happens on the internet en masse whenever clash of personalities, clash of egos happen at this large of a scale.
Official response from Ethan Klein on the H3H3 channel. And you can see my response to Idubbbz. And you can see the reaction to this is
Hasan went to a Diddy party? Yeah, I know. That's crazy because you normally say that as like a joke, you know, but that's like actually like a real thing that was said. It's just kind of fucking weird. It's just like it always seems like Hasan is in shit like nonstop. I can't remember a time where he wasn't. It's just kind of nuts.
Completely different than the content cop. So in the first 24 hours, it has a...
He did? Yeah, no, he admitted himself he went to a Diddy party. Yeah, this was like back in like 2013, yeah.
Like-dislike ratio of about 97%. Compare that to about the 40% on the content cop. This has been a completely different reaction, and also understand that the communities that he is responding to here are rabid. Okay, I'm not surprised if some of them are going on 5 different accounts trying to put dislikes on this video, but it's still not working. I'm actually pretty impressed by how high the support is for this video, but it makes sense given
Hasan is a dickhead, but Ethan isn't. I think the thing you got to understand is the false equivalency. I think Ethan and Hasan and Denims have all done bad things. However, I do think that Hasan and Denims have done much worse things that have caused much worse things to happen to Ethan. You know, going after his kids, going after his wife, real life danger, you know, all that shit. It's just kind of rough. Like one person scraped their knee, the other person broke their leg. You know, obviously they're going to receive different treatment at the hospital, right? They've both fucked up, sure, but I think Hasan and Denims have fucked up much more. I'm trying to be as fair as possible.
Given the context with the content cop. Now, in this response video, he lays out some important context and additional details, mainly how Idubbbz was so manipulative, especially with some of the clips he was using in the beginning of the video, trying to paint Ethan Klein and even his wife, Hila, as these unhinged lunatics who were just lashing out at all these innocent parties that helped contribute to the content cop, that he was crashing out, that he was just losing his mind. Well, of course, Idubbbz, during all this, leaves out all of the relevant context and tries to manipulate it to make Ethan Klein the villain.
I've enjoyed your content over the years, and as of late, it's gotten really fucking shitty.
Yeah, so go fuck yourself.
I agree.
Who else? Who else do we want to burn today?
Who else do we want to burn today? You're making it so fucking obvious that this is your emotional dumping ground. It's horrible.
By the way, I don't know how good Rev is at math, but Rev said that this was a 40% dislike ratio. Maybe he said like ratio. I want to just clarify. This is around a 60 to 65% dislike ratio. I want to make that very clear. The numbers are very important. Maybe he said 40% like ratio, but this is, just want to make it very clear, like a 60 to 65% dislike ratio. He said like, great, maybe I misheard.
This is not what podcasts are. There was a way to approach this to say like, yeah, we feel hurt by you guys not saying something. You've decided to do the extra thing and attack. Now, in fairness, I am attacking back. But I feel very insulted, and I feel defensive, and I feel like I am speaking up for a lot of people who have problems with you, and a lot of people who have been on the receiving end of your harassment.
So
I don't know why Idubbbz has to come play defense for Hasanabi when Hasanabi has a much larger platform than Idubbbz. I just don't understand why we're running defense here. I don't know why we're treating Hasanabi like a fucking child. I just don't get it, bro. It's just kind of weird.
I feel like if you didn't have any additional context, you would probably already be able to see through this facade and how much of an unbearable person Idubbbz has become. Such a condescending attitude, a holier-than-thou attitude that he has really made his entire personality at this point. But what we're referring to here is the lack of context The clips we just saw and many of the clips shown to prove Ethan Klein's unhinged nature was from this podcast from about a month ago. And you can see the title, Snark Called Child Protective Services on Us. So Snark is a subreddit completely dedicated to attacking Ethan and his family. That's all they do. And people believe they were part of the reason this whole CPS call came through. Now, in Idubbbz content cop that's supposed to be fair and impartial, he never once, not a single time, mentioned the CPS call, nor did he mention anything that would give any sort of grace to Ethan Klein in this situation, because this podcast that he made was...
There was a vague allude to it, but nobody without context would understand what he was talking to.
The same day, he had CPS called on his family over absolute nonsense, over people trying to manipulate and exploit that system.
And I don't know if it's expressed in this video, but I do want to say, having child protective services on you is a very traumatic thing. Because not only do they come to your house, they look over your living situation, they'll approach your kids at school, pull them aside, remove them from the classroom where all the kids can go and look at them and say, look at this kid, his family's fucked up. It's a deeply traumatic thing. And I know Denims like to say things like, and this is a direct quote, close to it as much as I can, that it doesn't matter what happens to you before you're 4 years old, you'll have no memory of it. And I think it's insane how anybody could even remotely humor the idea that as long as you don't remember a traumatic experience, then it doesn't matter, because what you're doing is you're enabling people like Bill Cosby's behavior towards what he did to women, and I don't really think that's a good fucking thing to humor. And it's just become this dick measuring contest of who can be the worst human being on earth with these quotes, all for the sake of my character on the internet is important to me and I can't admit any wrongdoing ever, otherwise my empire will fall. And I'm sorry, if you've built an empire to where you apologizing for doing something wrong to your chat would completely destroy your career, you don't deserve to have that career. And you're a disgusting human being in my eyes. And you're so small, it's ridiculous. But some of these ideologies that people are humoring just for the sake of this one-uppedness is ridiculous.
To try to harm his family simply because they don't like his opinions on things. It's completely unhinged. We talked about it before, and now we're going to be looking at some of the additional context here provided by Ethan Klein. Now, in his response and in the content cop itself, there's a little kerfuffle about this kind of falling out over associations with some problematic people. In the video, Idubbbz says, he was trying to friend police me by saying I can't associate with people like, I don't know, Denims TV. And Ethan would say it's not just because you follow them on social media, it's because you're actively engaging with people who are saying terrible, awful things about me and my family and contributing to this harassment campaign, and you seem like you're...
So, I don't know who the fuck this dude is. Denims is someone that believes as long as the person doesn't remember what's happened to them, then they have no right to complain about it, which is insane. And Frogan, this person right here, is another person who have said that all war veterans deserve to have PTSD. And obviously my father's a military vet, and both of these two women have made personal attacks at my father, which is just completely uncalled for no reason whatsoever. And it's embarrassing that we're still giving these people a platform, to be completely honest, because I do believe they're just completely terrible human beings. There are very rare people who I have a lower opinion of due to direct association, but I would say Denims and Frogan are definitely two of those people. And to be honest, and this is a shame because I did really enjoy the conversation I had about anime with Hasan during our podcast for Steak and Eggs, but even more so, I think that if you're not going to hold Hasan accountable for his actions that he's done and the wrongdoings he's done to other streamers that are demonstrably proven true, yeah, I do think less of your character, absolutely.
At the very least...
Not that anybody has to care about my opinion, but that is how I feel.
Okay with it by continuing to associate with these people, just, both Idubbbz and his wife, Anissa. And you can see from this, I mean, it was never about trying to help out Ethan Klein. All of that moral grandstanding, it was just a shield for them to go after him for over an hour, attacking his character and trying to frame him as some crazy person. Now, of course, he's going to provide some of the context here and show that whole CPS situation and how so many people involved with the production of the content cop were encouraging the sort of hysteria around a lot of the fake information that was being spread about what was going on with his family.
Now, why am I mad at Ian for this? Well, let's start here. Denims is someone he's accusing me of in his video of harassing. Let's see what Denims said about my children 3 days before CPS was called.
He lets his dogs shit all over.
So he says, the soldiers still carry out the injustice. It's all wrong. I think if you go down that slope, this is their employment, they did this, I think it becomes a very slippery slope. Because then you got to kind of understand, like, where does the blame stop? So the government in the United States employs human beings who are generally more or less down on their luck to enact their will to enforce the freedom of the United States towards every other country. Okay, so we can guilt the soldiers for that, and we can guilt the government for that. When is it that we stop? When do we stop? Right? Do we guilt the people who provide them the guns to enact that justice? Do we guilt the people who make the armor for them to enact that justice? Do we guilt the people who feed them, who make them food? When do we stop enacting that these people are bad because they have been employed by a country to provide its citizens the luxuries and the freedom that we have as a nation? I know this is a saying as old as time, but freedom isn't free. And sometimes bad things do happen. And it's a very hard thing to understand of what is right and what is wrong. And it's a much deeper, morally questionable topic that I don't really have the time to get into today. Whether you like soldiers, whether you hate soldiers, I don't really care. Me personally, I have respect for a lot of soldiers. Not every soldiers. I know soldiers that have done horrible things. And then I've known soldiers that have done great things that have been painted as being horrible. I know people who have portrayed other countries that we've invaded as innocent little good boys, and yet I know personally how horrible the things they've done to people in my family, the people who I know. I remember my brother was helping operate on a small child during his deployment in a country that I don't really need to get into because politics are fucking messy. And as they saved this young child's life, the first thing the young child did was grab a scalpel and stab my brother in the neck with it. And it's a part where the world is so messy and horrible things happen that slip under the radar every single day that no one will ever know about. And that's why talking about political views is always messy. And that's why painting everything as black and white is very difficult, because the world is very gray. It is, and that's what's difficult for a lot of people to understand.
His mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor, something that is probably related to the fact that his former housekeeper is suing him for a number of different reasons. So I would assume he doesn't actually have a housekeeper anymore, or perhaps he lost his extra housekeeper. So now the house is just like covered in dog shit.
My brother survived.
He has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit, and God forbid, I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something, but they contracted a parasite that I had previously never heard of in my life called Giardia from the dog shit that is all over.
So again, I talked about this in a previous video about a month ago, but to give some additional context, this guy, Bad at Banana here, who's reporting this, is acting like this is some rare unknown disease called Giardia. And that was something that over 1 million Americans a year suffer from, and we had literal pediatric nurses coming out and saying stuff like this happens to kids. They have a 3-year-old kid who's crawling around on the ground. They had a dog that they just got who was a rescue who had a stomach virus and clearly couldn't control itself in a new environment, and at some point the 3-year-old must have crawled into it before someone noticed the leavings were on the ground and they got sick. And again, all these pediatric nurses came out and said this is the kind of stuff they deal with every single day. They don't see a single red flag. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it sounds like it happened. But this person's making it sound like they're going around rolling around this stuff, that they're eating it, that it's like it's everywhere in their house, that it's completely unsafe. And you can see the logs here that people have gathered together of these.
And the problem is that Denims, and I hate to do this, but the problem with Denims is that she's so fucking retarded that she gets so excited when she hears anything going against anybody that has said anything bad about her daddy Hasan, that she will jump like a well-behaved dog and say, yes, oh my God, Chad, I can't believe they fucking did that. Can you believe this, guys? Oh my God, can you believe this happened? I can't believe this 100%, 1,000,000% happened without ever checking any sources whatsoever. It's just pathetic, right? It's a shame. And this is obviously a platform where people got to realize that, like, dude, a lot of these streams are just retards with megaphones, and that's pretty much all it is.
Sorts of reactions. And are you surprised that this happening 3 days before the CPS call is not much of a coincidence?
It's true, dude. How is it that like maybe once a week I I look into what Ethan Klein's been up to, and every time I manage to find more and more terrible shit. This is where.
And that's kind of like with this bad empanada person, because like this video that they're reacting to, Denims is reacting to, is like very key to this whole thing where a lot of this stuff really heated up. And it's like the more I look at this guy, the more unhinged he is. Like we talk about Frogan with her quote about how she thinks American soldiers deserve PTSD. I mean, he said this: every U.S. veteran gay-manning themselves is a criminal bringing themselves to justice. I think this is actually worse than the Frogan line. Then you see that he was celebrating in multiple chats when CPS was abused in order to target Ethan Klein's
you have all these dumb fucks who just take everything that hundreds of thousands of soldiers have sacrificed themselves for the luxuries that we have today. And these people are so entitled because they never had to do anything difficult for their country at all besides go live and be a retard on the internet. And I think disrespecting the soldiers is just such a horrific thing to do, that people who don't want to be there are forced into that position because it's their only option to survive, and they're scared. They never learn how to be comfortable ever again after their deployment. They do things that are unspeakable, that live with them and haunt them every single fucking day. And to disrespect the people who gave you the safe soil underneath your feet in order to live and be comfortable and be ignorant of the atrocities that happen every single day on this earth, that you get to go to bed in your comfortable mattress underneath your blanket, sleep soundly, and your biggest issue is, man, I don't like my boss, and their issues are, I don't know if I'm safe because I'm afraid someone is going to kill me in my sleep. And the fact that people can disrespect these people en masse, I understand there's bad eggs amongst the bunch, but you need to pay respect to those who let us live these comfortable lives. And I think it's pathetic how people want to shit on the soldiers. Listen, guys, I don't want to know how you feel, and it breaks my heart to even understand how anybody could disrespect the people who have put their lives on the line to give us the comfortability that we experience every single day. But I'm very patriotic for our troops, and I appreciate all American soldiers. I do, because they're the reasons why I get to go live and play video games. And I hope I never have to experience anything as awful as all of them have. And that's why my dad requested me to not join the military, because my mom did, my dad did, both my brothers did. And they say, hey, man, we just want you to do your thing. And I appreciate my father for that. I do. It wasn't always like that, but eventually he realized that way, and that made me very happy.
Family over this matter. And then you also see this bizarre Instagram story that he released pretty recently where he said, the 26th and 27th of April, there is another surprise for you, Ethan. Enjoy the ruining of your life. And this is one of the clips from that story.
Tick-tock goes the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. If you thought it was bad today, my friend, you just wait and see what else we have in store for you.
Yeah, I mean, they all seem like
weird
really,
as fuck,
really normal people, but you can see, based on this whole interaction here, the chat was getting very riled up by this, and it's no coincidence that, 3 days later, there was a CPS call made. Now let's look at one more part here, where Denims tries to justify a CPS call on kids because, well, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, they probably won't remember what happens during something like that.
I don't want you to create any bad memory here for them. Like, they are 5 and 3. They don't understand this shit. So I told him,
create any bad memory for them. You're not forming memories at 3 years old, and it's very rare that you're forming memories at 5 years old. Now, yes, you are. No, you're not. When we're talking about being able to remember, being able to recall memories, it's like 4.
Denims is the type of person who will jump to discredit and character assassinate anybody she doesn't like, even if she's completely in the wrong, because she realizes she has a bunch of retarded simps in her chat that are only watching her because they want to jerk off to her OnlyFans once her stream ends, and they'll agree with anything that she says because they want to date her in real life, because they're parasocial and they don't understand that just because you watch someone's Twitch stream doesn't mean that you're dating them. And the problem is Denims' ego has become so overinflated due to this point. And the fact is, Denims would not have a career without Hasan whatsoever. But essentially, I mean, Hasan has raised and groomed his own guard dog, this woman who's so fucking dumb that will believe anything what her daddy says. I mean, who the fuck was Denims for Hasan? Nobody. People can draw the parallel between who was Tectone before Asmongold. Well, I'll tell you what I was. I was a guy who still had 8,000 fucking viewers that I built my fucking self. And it's not fucking hard. I built myself very easily. Who the fuck was Denims? Fucking nobody. And that's the goddamn truth. It's insane how fucking stupid this woman is. She's completely bitch made, and I think it's very dangerous when someone can be this fucking ignorant, this fucking retarded. And yeah, may God have mercy on her soul.
4 is the cutoff, but even if you are forming any memories at 4, you're not gonna be able to remember them past like 15.
Yeah, you get it. She wears many hats. She's an expert in many different fields and is able to make very bold statements like this, basically saying that a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, who cares if they make there's a false CPS report made on their family and now the kids have to be interviewed. Who cares what happens, because they won't remember it anyways, which is total BS, by the way. And also, what a chilling effect that would have if you use that as a standard for all kids across the world, right? So, like, nothing matters. As long as they're not, like, physically harmed, nothing matters because they're 3 and 5. Like, what? An absolutely deranged thing to say here. And, like, don't you see...
I don't even want to begin to describe the damaging words that her lack of IQ has spouted. But guys, do you understand the damaging notion it puts forth to say that as long as the children don't remember what has happened, then it's fine? Do you guys understand how damaging of a precedent that is to put forth towards not only children, to all human beings? Do we understand how this woman woke up and said that shit all to defend her daddy Hasan?
Why someone would be uncomfortable with this person being friends with you or your wife when they're talking about your family like that? And it gets even worse. There's other clips like this where she tried to imply that Hila, Ethan's wife, was a child killer.
And
I mean,
if you opened the
Guys, the IDF member is bringing us back to reality. Okay? The IDF member is bravely taking a break from killing unarmed children to bring us back to reality.
What a wild and gross thing to say. And also, for those who don't know, the IDF is something that anyone born in Israel, like his wife, Hila, they have to participate when they turn 18. So she uses that as an opportunity to imply that she is...
This is what they do for anybody who attempts to criticize them. They get to try, they label them as serial killers. They label them as children killers because they need to character assassinate anybody who has valid criticism towards them.
She was game-ending unarmed children during her service, which is
insane.
Outlandish.
I want to remind you guys that Hasan was trying to paint Asmongold as a pedophile and a lolly lover. All because Asmongold has had some mild critiques of Hasan's behavior. If that's not insane, I don't know what it is to tell you.
Actually slanderous thing to say, but also something that apparently is pretty funny to people like Hasan Piker, who is reacting to the response that Ethan Klein made recently. And this is how he reacted to that whole segment we just looked at.
The boy could be an actor, you know what I mean?
Denims, who literally calls my wife a baby killer, amongst other insane...
Jesus. I mean, brother, like, have some rationale, have some tact, have some fucking empathy, bro. Like, understand how damaging that is to say about somebody, bro. It's fucking nuts.
Saying terrible things.
All right, he's just like, dude, this is such a funny way to react to this.
Am I missing something, guys? Am I missing the joke here? Like, what is...
Dude, this is why I'm so glad I'm not part of OTK anymore, so I'm not forced to interact with any of these retards like Hasan anymore, bro. It's just embarrassing. Like, it's just fucking embarrassing. Is the clout really that worth it to interact with somebody like this? It's fucking insane. You know what I did the only time where I knew I had to interact with Hasan? It was game day basketball. The first thing I do is I'm like, oh, Hasan's going to be there? Oh, I need to come because I did all the other game day? Okay. I'm going to bring 8 MAGA hats. I'm going to bring 8 MAGA hats and get everybody to wear them. I trashed on him. He trashed on me. People were saying, oh, bro, if you had such a big deal with Hasan, why didn't you fight him in real life? I don't know, because I'm not an ogre. because I'm not a caveman. Because what would that do? Yeah, dude, you should have shot him if you had such a big deal with him. It's like, no, I clowned on him. I made a joke out of him the entire fucking time. I was ragging on him every single time he missed a shot. And that's pretty much it. You know, like, what else can you possibly do?
So funny. Are we watching an episode of Bro Tips? You know, some classic Hasan Piker stuff here. Like, is that what we're laughing at? Because I don't understand what's so funny about someone implying that their wife is a baby killer. Like, what is so hilarious about that? And of course, he has no actual, like, argument as to why that was acceptable whatsoever. Why Ethan is so wrong for being offended by that. He's just like, oh, dude, okay, dude, as per usual. But anyways, in Ethan's response, we would get another very disturbing round of information here.
I'll be real, bro. I actually feel so bad for Ethan, man. Nobody should have to go through them going after his kids. It's just fucking nuts. And his wife, too. It's just fucking nuts.
It wasn't just the CPS call around that time. There was another very disturbing development that he's going to explain right now.
There's something that I've never talked about publicly, but around the same time, we received 2 human skulls in the mail at our home, which led us to having a very pleasant interview with the FBI. Things have progressed well past the point of that's just what the internet does. Ian had a recent revelation. He's transcended into a new person. He's achieved nirvana and discovered empathy at age 32.
I think only in these past couple of years have I
him.
gained the ability empathy, and I'm very ashamed to admit that.
So yeah, obviously things have gotten to a level that is absolutely disgusting. Someone's sending what is alleged to be human skulls to his home. Like, how messed up is that? How does anyone sit there and try to rationalize what's going on here? And of course, I guarantee you, every single person on this screen right now you're looking at, not a single one of them will say that's too far. Not a single one of them will say anything remotely close to sending human skulls to someone's house because you don't like their opinions is a bit too far. None of them will say it. In fact, what we're actually seeing is people in this whole crowd playing defense. They're already trying to defend themselves. You have that bad empanada individual once again making statements on YouTube saying, imagine getting destroyed so bad for genocide apologia that you are reduced to trying to play the victim by buying novelty human skulls, claiming that someone else sent them to you as a threat, and posting pictures of them with the tags from the store you bought them from still plainly visible. Zionists will do literally anything to avoid reckoning with the reality of their ideology. That's very, well, let's just say cope. Okay, at this point, they're trying to say that they're buying this stuff for themselves and then also getting the FBI involved. So they're going to buy fake props and then get a federal agency involved, which, by the way, would be a false report that would be illegal. They would risk all of that for this unnecessary step. They don't need any more sympathy right now. They're winning this whole battle. Okay, we're seeing Cope here. They're winning. They're, you know, Ian and all these guys, they're winning.
At a certain point, you just got to understand
so hard to resort to this. No, everyone with
these people just have lost their humanity to be
can
this
understand
fucked
the
up.
optics of the situation. The content cop
To be
blew
this
up in
desperate
Ian's
to be
face and
right is
everyone involved.
pathetic.
And now we're having these additional details coming out that make all these people involved in this harassment campaign look even more foolish. And again, the burden's on them to prove that this stuff is fake. You want to make an allegation that this stuff is fake? Well, it's on you. And also, it's the message being sent. What looks like very real skulls being sent in the mail, 2 of which, by the way, and also, coincidentally, he has 2 children. So I think the message is very clear, and any normal person would find this very disturbing and would rightfully report it to the authorities.
I thought the message was about killing him and his wife, but I guess people can also interpret it as the children as well. Either way, any interpretation leads to something that's not too good.
Is exactly what happened. Now, moving on with this and wrapping it up for today, a lot of people are starting to speculate about Creator Clash 3. This is Idubbbbz' big celebrity boxing event with content creators and alike. And it turns out that Jake Paul recently announced that his next boxing event will be on the same day as Creator Clash 3, which will definitely take away some of the traction for Ian, who's dealing with a lot because some people are obviously going to get a lot of pressure for continuing with this event after everything that's happened. And boy, the sales aren't looking great. With only a few months to...
Well, good news is I can see that Frogan got her own separate sections. Look at that. The whole Frogan section. They actually made her fit in the arena, bro. That's great. That's awesome, man. Good for her.
Go. The blue here is the available seats for Creator Clash 3. It's not looking good. He has definitely reaped what he has sown, and he's going to continue to. Idubbbz and his fall off here is painful to watch. I don't care who you are. This is really the bad ending of any YouTuber like this. But for now, that's all we have with the recent updates regarding this situation. I know that I believe by the time this video is live, I think Ethan's going to be streaming again, talking more about this, and I'm sure there's even more detail, so I'll keep you posted on that. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics.
Yeah. It's fucking ridiculous. At a certain point, we got to ask ourselves, is it really worth it? Is our reputation really worth destroying other people's lives? Me personally, nah, I'm good.